If you come over here and take a look at the Doom Tower, you'll see that we actually have the Dark Fae rotation live, which is good news for anyone who doesn't like farming Fire Knight, because you can actually use the materials that acquired from that boss, and you can come over here and craft yourself the beautiful lethal set, which is going to give you 10% crit rate and ignore 25% of enemy defense. This set is hands down probably the best set that you can farm out of Doom Tower. You could make a case for something like Guardian or something like that, but I think overall this is where it's at. This is such a good set, especially now that we have accessories and stuff like that too, where you can combine it with something like Merciless. I do know, however, that Dark Fae is a bit of a contentious boss to face. She was certainly a bit difficult for me starting out and trying to figure out how to counter her. So I'm going to be showing you guys a team here today that is going to do every single stage on full auto, apart from I think floor 120 on normal. Oddly enough, this team is a little bit overtuned to do it, so you have to do it on manual unless your team is a little bit weaker. Essentially the reason for that being is they just nuke through the waves too quick, so they don't have a chance to rotate back around to their skills. But if you have less attack or stats, then it should work perfectly fine for you, or if you play around with the presets, of course. Let's go over the boss real quick. What does she do? Well, she basically mirrors your team. So we'll start all the way down here. She has the immunities that you'd expect, so stun, freeze, sleep, blah blah blah. However, she is not immune to turn meter reduction. She does have the max HP cap of 10%. However, all turn meter reduction effects are decreased by 50% when used against the boss. So essentially, if you are going with a decreased turn meter strategy like we are in today's video, you want to bring a lot of it, because you can't depend on someone like a Coldheart or an Allure alone just to, deplete the turn meter. A little bit of spoilers on the team there too, but her passive is placing a perfect veil on herself for 3 turns and spawning mirror copies of all enemies onto her team at the start of the battle. She spawns mirror copies of all enemies onto her team every time her dark energy counter reaches 5. She places a perfect veil on herself for 3 turns every time it reaches 5, and it resets after it reaches 5. Her dark abduction banishes one enemy champion and spawns a mirror copy. Basically, she's going to get a copy of one of your champions, usually the one with the highest attack, it looks like, and you can't use that champion. They're basically dead for all intents and purposes until you kill them from her team. She's then going to place a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, and she increases her dark energy counter by 1. Fairy Storm attacks all enemies. All living allies will team up and join this attack. Damage increases by 25 for each living ally. Basically, you just want to make sure she has no allies, so that's referring to your mirror copies. Dark Tendrils attacks all enemies, steals 1 random buff. A lot of reading here. Essentially, she's just going to take buffs. It depends a little bit on the affinities that you have on your team. Good stuff to know there. Attacks all enemies, 100% chance of placing a leech. So basically, you don't want her taking too many turns, because if she starts taking turns, she is going to heal herself quite prolifically as well. So it gets very annoying to try and deal with. Let's go ahead and hop into the team, which, like I say, you've seen a little bit of spoilers there for. This is going to be the 5 champions that are used, and this is 100% free to play friendly, I would say. So we have Yakarl the Scourge, we have Skimfos, who doesn't even have a blessing on him, we have Allure, we have Deacon Armstrong, and we have Coldheart. Now, blessings are not mandatory for this team by any means. They are definitely going to help you get through it a little bit quicker, so nothing to worry about there. Let's start with the build on Coldheart. She is in Reflex set, so you could definitely get some better stats on her if you were just going for stats over sets, and she does have a refresh accessory there. These are the stats we have: 204 speed, 71% crit rate, because that's all she needs, 285% crit damage, 3600 on the attack. Very squishy though, so she's definitely not going to survive if left in a prolonged fight on her own, and 342 on the accuracy. Everything is booked out here. Masteries, she is going to be coming down to Flawless Execution, actually, is the one that I chose to go with. If you want, you could definitely feel free to go with War Master. It's probably more effective because I did have this champion built out before there was the cap implemented on enemy max HP, so Flawless Execution at that point was essentially the way to go, just to try and get her max HP skill increased a little bit more. If you're not familiar with Coldheart, she has a 4-time hitter on the A1 with a heal reduction. She has an AoE decrease accuracy, and she has a massive hit on the A3, which is attacking one enemy, decreasing the turn meter by 100%, has an extra 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit, and it's an enemy max HP attack, so you're basically just building her to that. Next champion, Deacon Armstrong. This guy is absolutely fantastic. He is built out in damage gear, so these are his stats here. 272 on the speed, a little bit of attack, 95% crit rate, 108 crit damage, 288 on the accuracy. This guy is fantastic. You definitely don't need him as fast as he is, but you definitely want him to be cycling turns fairly prolifically. In terms of his skills, he does have Cruelty as a blessing. Everything is booked out. His A3 is going to fill the turn meter of all allies by 15% and decreasing all enemies by 15%, grants an extra turn, and then he brings that into an decreased defense AoE. And he also has a leech on the A1. As you can see, the masteries aren't even fully done on him, so if you had him build out with a War Master or something like that, that's going to speed up this run quite significantly for you as well. In terms of his gear, of course, he is just in a triple speed set, nothing too special there. Next champion is going to be Allure. She is the absolute queen of turn meter reduction in this game. She's built out with a little bit of damage as well, so she has 3,500 on the attack, 266 on the speed. She's definitely quite speedy. 97% crit rate. We'd ideally want that to be 100%, of course, and 305 on the accuracy. She's built out in 2 sets of speed and 1 set of perception. She has no books in her, and you're just basically using the A1, which is decreasing the target's turn meter by 25% on each hit. And then, of course, you can come over here to Giant Slayer, which is what I would recommend since she does have a triple hitter on that A1. You're going to get quite a bit more damage out of her for that. Another additional mastery that you'd want to pick up for her is Evil Eye, which decreases the turn meter when this champion hits them. So basically, she's going to get an additional 20% turn meter reduction on each hit to the enemy for the first time that round, if that makes sense. Skimfos, the Consumed, is a fantastic, albeit underutilized epic from the Void, and he's Demon Spawn, which is pretty cool. He is fully booked out. This guy is built with a little bit of damage as well, so 131 crit rate, 146 crit damage, 2,800 attack, nothing too crazy, 411 on the accuracy. No blessing on him. If I were to do a blessing, it would probably be either Cruelty or something like a Phantom Touch. I think would be very, very good ways to go for him. If you're getting to a 6-star on him, probably Crushing Rend if you're building him with damage. He does come down here to a War Master as well, so very, very useful to get a little bit of damage there. He's built with accuracy, speed, and perception. What does he do? Well, on his A3, he transfers all debuffs from this champion to a target enemy, then attacks the target. He steals 100% of the target's turn meter if the attack is critical. So he is another king of turn meter reduction that we can use on this team to help us out with Dark Fae. He attacks all enemies, 75% chance, books to 100 of placing a decrease attack. After attacking, he then transfers all debuffs except basically the crowd controls from all allies to this champion. So he's basically sucking in the debuffs so that on his A3 he can send them back to the boss. He attacks one enemy 2 times, places a decreased speed, and the second hit decreases the turn meter. Overall, fantastic champion. This guy is not mandatory though. We'll go over some substitutions after. This fella right here, I would say, is pretty damn close to mandatory though, and he's someone that you should be able to get and use. This is Yukaro. He's available in the clan shop. Start saving your coins and acquire him. He's built out very fast, so he's got 272 on the speed, only 87% on the crit rate right now because I don't have his gloves fully maxed out. He's built so fast because I'm trying to use him in a Fire Knight hard team, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. 4,600 on the attack, 276 on the accuracy, which is definitely on the lower side, especially for some of the stages higher up in hard Doom Tower, so build him appropriately. A3 attacks all enemies, places a freeze. It increases to 100% against targets with 75% per more turn meter, and it cannot be resisted. A2 attacks one enemy, 75%, books to 100% chance of placing decreased speed, and a 75% chance of a freeze. Also steals 100% of the target's turn meter and places an increased speed on himself. So you can see kind of a theme here where we're either decreasing or stealing the turn meter. And then his A1 is a double hitter, ignoring some defense if they have a freeze, and then placing a freeze if they don't already have one. So essentially, the way this team is set up is, and I'll start the run right now while I show some of the presets, but the way this team is set up is going to, we come in here, and on the third wave, we're going to have Yukaro open up with his A3, so he's going to absolutely nuke down the mirror copies, and then he kind of just does his own thing after that. We definitely want him putting the A2 up, which he does seem to do fairly good. Deacon Armstrong on wave 3 is going to open with time compression, and he's going to have a secondary of the sweeping retribution. Skimfos is, of course, priority 1 on the Clutch of Woe, and then he's going to open with his A2, though, just because I want this Clutch of Woe to be saved for when we actually use it against the boss, essentially. On wave 3, of course, Allure is doing nothing except her A1s, and then on A3 we actually have Coldheart opening with her A2 and then not using it again because, of course, she is in the reflex and she is, you know, in the refresh accessories as well. So essentially, we just want to try and get the cooldowns to proc as much as possible on the Heart Seeker. For round 1, This is how Deacon looks, round 2. Yakarl, round 1, round 2. Skimfos, round 1, round 2. Allure is kind of just set to do her own thing, so round 1, round 2. And Coldheart, round 1, round 2. That is the AI preset. I'm going to pull up the Hell Hades stages tool here real quick. Give me 1 second. Screenshot of the stats here on the screen, but essentially Astranax, this is going to be on hard 120. So this is going to be the absolute hardest version of Dark Fae that you face. So she's going to have 2.8 million HP, 14,000 attack, so a decreased attack is definitely nice. 14,000 defense, so defense is nice. 250 on the speed. She's going to have 330 resistance, which means that you want to have 355 or higher resistance, accuracy if you're planning on debuffing her, and her accuracy is going to be 250, so you want 355 or higher resistance if you're planning on resisting her, and her effective HP is 18 million, so that's essentially just taking her resistances and her B and her defense and everything like that and putting them all together. So she is a very tanky boss. You want to make sure that you're bringing decreased defense attack and try and take her down as quick as possible. The bonus with her is she is a void boss, so it's very easy to hit into her with basically any affinity, of course. I hope this helped you guys out. I'd be very interested to hear down below what team you guys use for this particular boss, and you know how fast your team is and everything like that. So far, I'm the only person who's beaten it in my clan on hard, which is pretty cool. I think I got ahead of everybody else by 1 day since I got the rotation done sooner. If we're looking in here at the global leaderboards, it's all just Newt, so I figured I'd give you guys a team that's not using that particular fusion if, like me, you missed him. So hopefully this helps out. A couple substitutions to go over. So basically, Allure, Skimfos, and Deacon could very technically be replaced by another Coldheart if you have one. Of course, somebody like a Skimfos, Allure, or again, Deacon could be replaced by Armands if you've completed that fusion. Somebody like Yakarl could easily be replaced by, of course, a Wukong. The only thing to keep in mind with Wukong is if you have him and she spawns the copies, he's going to keep on reviving, I believe. And yeah, basically you're going to need a Coldheart at minimum, otherwise you're going to need an Allure. I hope you guys enjoyed the video though.